Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Well, the polls have closed. They were supposed to have just closed as this video came out, but I recorded the entire thing, and then when I came to edit it and stuff, I realised that my voice hadn't recorded. So I am now re-recording the video shortly after the polls closed. So the polls closed a little while ago, and so this map that you see on the screen is no longer, the state is no longer how it is. This was the result from 2021, and that has now been superseded, and we'll find out in the coming days how much has changed. And obviously this video I'm going to sort of project or predict, cautiously using those words, how I think it might shake out in the coming hours. Firstly, a bit of an apology for me. Firstly, the video's late. Apologise for that. Didn't realise my microphone hadn't been recording in the other video. But secondly, just apologies for lack of content in the week leading up to this these elections. I had hoped to do more videos, and I wanted this video to be done last night, on the eve of polling day, and I wanted it to be a bit more scientific than this is going to be. I started doing something when I was trying to project, in a way, I suppose, how it was all going to work out, and I was hoping we could talk about how many councillors each party might win on in total and on each council. But unfortunately, as I battled to try and get this working, I started trying to make it as simple as possible. It became more and more complex, and I ran out of time, and it hadn't really worked anyway. So unfortunately that didn't happen, and I apologise that the video is late for a start, and that it's not going to be quite as scientific or as in depth as I wanted it to be. But anyway, we'll make of it what we can, and we're going to predict these local elections using largely the nowcast and just sort of general feeling, really, I guess. So we'll get right into it then. So as I say, this is the map of how it was after 2021. As we've said before, the Conservatives did very well. They had 15 majority councils here of the 23, I think it is, that's up for election this evening. So they swept the country, really, and that's all going to change. So we'll get into this. So we're going to start with one. We're going to go through alphabetically, actually, but we're going to start with one that I think they may well retain majority on. Kind of going with electoral calculus on this. Their poll in March said that the Conservatives would retain their majority in Buckinghamshire, which is right here. Yeah, look, I wouldn't be actually surprised if the Liberal Democrats do enough in Buckinghamshire to kick the Tories out and reduce them to largest party. But I'm going to sort of go with what their poll said, and say Conservatives will retain Buckinghamshire as a majority, an outright majority. So we move swiftly on to Cambridgeshire. Cambridgeshire, again, I'm actually going to leave the same. Now, Cambridge is interesting because I really thought that the Liberal Democrats may well oust the Conservatives, and the Liberal Democrats are the largest party, actually, but I thought they may oust other Conservative councillors in this election to become the largest party, to become a majority on Cambridgeshire County Council. That may well happen. Look, they do very well around sort of these bigger constituencies outside of Cambridge, South Cambridgeshire, St Neots and Mid Cambridgeshire, Ely and East Cambridgeshire. They do well there, but Reform have started doing really, really well in the north of the county, North East Cambridgeshire and North West Cambridgeshire in particular. Reform have just in the last month, their polling numbers have improved again, and they've sort of come out in that part of the county. So I think Reform may take some councillors off of the Conservatives. Whether or not the Liberal Democrats can, they may well, and it may well be a Lib Dem majority. But electoral calculus had it down as a Lib Dem largest party, so I'm going to kind of go with that. So Lib Dem's largest in Cambridgeshire, and that's staying as it is. That's one of the last ones that's going to stay as it is. So we've done the two that are kind of staying the same. The rest are pretty much all going to change. So Cornwall's the next one, and Cornwall, I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to say Reform are going to be the largest party. Oh, I should have said, sorry, I did this in the first video and I forgot to say it in the second video. Slight change of rules. Last time we had about 4 different colours and it was all a little bit too convoluted. This time it's just dark colour means majority, lighter colour means largest party on that council. None of the other stuff that we had last time, it was too confusing. And the other thing was, a lot of you guys said how the Reform colour and the Conservative colour was too similar, so for the purposes of this video, Reform are purple. So sorry, should have mentioned that, but that's out of the way. So I'm going out a bit of a limb. I'm going to say Reform are going to be the largest party in Cornwall. Now, like I said, I do think this is going out a bit of a limb. I think if this happens, the Reform will have a very, very good night across the rest of the country. The reason I'm saying that, well, look, they've last few weeks in the most recent Nowcast, which again, apologies, I didn't get a video out on that. This Nowcast is not the same one we looked at last time. There's been one since, and Reform are now the largest party according to this Nowcast. So you can see Camberwell and Redruth, they recently overtook Labour there. In St Austell and Newquay, they're up to 7% ahead. South East Cornwall, they're 5% ahead. Look, they're doing all right in Cornwall, but I do think the Liberal Democrats are very strong here. North Cornwall and St Ives, they're doing very, very well. Still, Conservatives nowhere to be seen in this county, so whatever happens, I'm pretty sure the Conservatives will be losing control of this council. Truro and Falmouth is still pretty much Labour. So yeah, I'm going Reform largest party. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was in fact Lib Democrat largest party down there. But for the purpose of the video, I'm going to say Reform largest party. And like I say, kind of in the theory of that, if Reform win Cornwall, are going to have a very good night. And I think what I'm going to predict is Reform having a very, very good night. So County Durham, up to the other end of the country. Look, we said last time, this is going to go to the Reform Party. They are incredibly strong up in the northeast. Look, we can go and have a look up here. And look, City of Durham, okay, fine, Labour are doing okay. They're only 4% ahead of Reform there, mind you. But look, the rest of it, Bishop Auckland, Newton Aycliffe, Spennymoor, Easington, they're so strong up here. North Durham as well, Reform doing so well. Up there in the northeast, I'm pretty confident, and indeed Electoral Calculus said this was going to go Reform as well. So Reform outright majority in Durham. Derbyshire is going to be another one where the Reform Party are going to get a majority. Again, Electoral Calculus agrees. Derbyshire, very, very strong part of the country for the Reform Party. Amber Valley constituency in Derbyshire was actually one of the first constituencies to flip on the Nowcast from whoever it is at the moment, Labour, I think. It was one of the first ones that Reform won outside of the 5 that they already had. So yeah, Derbyshire going to Reform, I'm fairly certain. Devon is currently Conservative majority. I'm going to say Conservative largest party down here. Again, wouldn't be at all surprised to see Liberal Democrat largest party, so the Southwest might look like that. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that is how it looks in the end. But I'm going to say Conservative largest party. Reason for that? Well, it's a bit of a funny one. There's actually a lot of parties doing well in Devon. Look, the Liberal Democrats doing very, very well in South Devon. In Newton Abbot, it's a lot closer. North Devon, they're miles ahead. Tiverton and Minehead, not all of this constituency is in Devon, but again, strong area for the Liberal Democrats, and Honiton and Sidmouth. So you can see why I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Liberal Democrats are the largest party in Devon. Electoral Calculus had the Conservatives down as largest party, and look, it's very close in Exmouth and Exeter East. There's a lot of votes to be had there. Central Devon, they're a bit more comfortable. Southwest Devon, again, they're ahead, not that comfortable. So I may be being a little bit too optimistic for the Tories down there, but I just wonder if their rural vote may just turn out for them. Yeah, Conservatives largest in Devon. Doncaster, no change from the previous video. Again, this is going to go to Reform. We'll just take a quick look at Doncaster because a lot has changed up here in this most recent Nowcast. You can see the colour on the screen is incredible. The momentum for Reform in this part of the country is phenomenal. And look, Doncaster North, they're ahead there now of Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary. Doncaster Central, they're now ahead by 3%. Doncaster East, they're almost 10% ahead over there. And Rawmarsh and Conisbrough, part of which falls under the Unitary Authority of Doncaster City Council, they are 12% ahead. John Healey is the Defence Secretary. So that's, 2 cabinet ministers there, Ed Miliband and John Healey, set to lose their seats. In John Healey's case, really quite emphatically. So Doncaster is going to go to Reform, I'm fairly certain, as we give them their third outright majority of the evening. We will move on to Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire is currently a Conservatives' largest party. We're going to give it to the Liberal Democrats' largest party. Lib Dems very strong in the southwest after last year's general election, and they still are. Look, the Tories are doing okay down here, but you can see they're pushed quite close by the Lib Dems in the North Cotswolds. Forest of Dean, they're pushed by Reform. In Monmouthshire, they're even pushed by Labour currently hold the seat. Conservatives have got back ahead. That's in Wales anyway, so completely disregard that. But Forest of Dean, the Conservatives are being pushed by Reform very, very close. Tewkesbury, miles ahead for the Liberal Democrats, likewise in Cheltenham. So yeah, I think Liberal Democrat largest party in Gloucestershire, kicking the Tories out down there. Hertfordshire is currently a Conservative majority as well. I'm going to give that one Conservatives' largest party. I would have given them majority there, actually, probably, until this nowcast, which just showed Reform starting to make some inroads. Broxbourne, they're now ahead of the Tories just about, and in Hemel Hempstead they're now ahead of Labour and the Tories to be first there as well. Look, the rest of the county is actually fairly. It's okay for the Conservatives. They're ahead in North East Hertfordshire and Hertsmere. They're actually very safe there. So, but again, look, the Lib Dems doing well here. Very a long way ahead in Harpenden and St Albans. Tories doing quite well in Welwyn Hatfield again now. Well, not well, but they've closed the gap to Labour. So I think the Tories will have enough to maintain largest party, but I do think they will lose their majority. Which, as you can see, is in a heartland for them. It's gonna be a bad night either way. I think we're probably projecting a really bad night. If it goes worse than this, then I think Kemi Badenoch will be in trouble as the leader. To Kent, and look, we know about Kent. Kent is very strong for Reform. We know about how strong they are in that Thames estuary area and around the coast, around the southeast coast. It's very, very much Reform territory these days, and they are going to get a outright majority in Kent, I'm fairly certain. Up to Lancashire, and I'm going to say the same. Reform again, majority, and I can't remember what I put down last time. I think I may have put Reform largest party. Just again looking at the map, now this is the nowcast. The standard disclaimer: it's parliamentary. This is a Westminster Parliament projection, not for local elections, and it doesn't quite work out the same. But this is kind of the best I have to go on. So, look. They're miles ahead in Blackpool North and Fleetwood. Half of this constituency comes within the authority of Lancashire County Council. Lancaster and Wyre, they're not far behind Labour. In Ribble Valley, they're almost neck and neck with the Tories. In Fylde, they are neck and neck with the Tories. They're ahead of Labour in Preston now. In South Ribble, they're ahead of Labour. In Southport, they're now ahead of Labour. They are miles ahead in Hyndburn. They are ahead in Pendle and Clitheroe. Burnley, they're eking out up to 10% ahead now with the Liberal Democrats in second place. And Rossendale and Darwen, again, part of which Rossendale comes within the county council's authority area. Again, getting up for 10%. I just think they're very, very strong in Lancashire, and I think the Reform Party will win an outright majority up there. Like I say, this past month, their polling has just gone in the. They've managed to regain that momentum that I said they were going to have to do, and I think they're on for a very strong night tonight. We'll move on to Leicestershire. Leicestershire is another one of those that's currently a Conservative majority. I'm going to say Conservatives' largest party. They're still doing quite well around Leicestershire in the sort of more rural, the bigger constituencies. Reform doing well up in northwest Leicestershire, and I think now in South Leicestershire too. But there's still a few Conservative holdouts where they're doing okay. So I'm gonna give Leicestershire as Conservatives' largest, but losing their majority. Lincolnshire. Now, if you remember Lincolnshire last time, I said, it's a toss-up. It's really, really close. At the time, the nowcast in places like Gainsborough, it was neck and neck. I think the Tories at the time were ahead by about 0.2, 0.1%. It's all changed. We're giving this to Reform. Again, look at this nowcast. You can just see Lincolnshire County has become Reform. And the margins have spread. In Boston, Skegness, this has obviously been a safe seat for them since the general election. Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform, is 26% ahead there. In South Holland and the Deepings, they're 6% ahead. That's a decent majority on the current nowcast, the way politics currently is. 8% ahead in Louth and Horncastle. Gainsborough, where it was 0.1 to the Tories, now 4% to the Reform Party. Sleaford and North Hykeham, 2.8%, and then even Grantham and Bourne, very small, very slim majority here of 1.6%. But this is Grantham and Bourne. Grantham is where Margaret Thatcher was born and grew up, so you can see the extent of damage that the Reform Party are doing to the Tories in Lincolnshire. It really is quite something. So yeah, Lincolnshire is going to go to the Reform Party, outright majority, I think. Northamptonshire. Going to give this one to Reform largest party. They're doing very, very well in that northern part of the county. Corby and East Northamptonshire, look, it's close. It's a toss-up with Labour, really, but they're ahead. They've eked ahead there. Kettering, they're now ahead. Wellingborough and Rushden actually comes into the other part of the county. Part of Daventry as well, also in this authority. So look, it's quite close in Northamptonshire. You can see that there's no huge margins there, but I think Reform will have enough to potentially become the largest party in Northamptonshire. While we're here, I might as well talk about West Northamptonshire. So look, South, it's all very confusing. For some reason, rather than just having Northamptonshire like we used to, we now have North Northamptonshire and West Northamptonshire. And in West Northamptonshire is the South Northamptonshire constituency, because, of course. Anyway, Conservatives are ahead in South Northamptonshire by about 4%, Reform in second. Wellingborough and Rushden, Northampton South, the Reform Party now ahead there. Wellingborough and Rushden, as I said, the Reform now quite a decent way ahead there as well. But I actually think West Northamptonshire, I confuse myself, I think that will be Conservatives' largest party. I think their vote may well hold up a bit better over that side of the county, but we will have to see. Moving on, we will go and talk about Northumberland. Now, Northumberland, up here, right the north of England, currently Conservatives' largest party. I'm going to give this one Reform largest party. Look, they're very, very strong, like I said, in the northeast. We looked at that area of County Durham, where they were really strong. As we move up to Northumberland, it becomes a little bit... They're still doing very well. They've got ahead in North Northumberland now. They're still very close. Hexham is more between the Labour and the Tories. Blyth and Ashington, the Reform are doing very well in, and then Cramlington and Killingworth is kind of a toss-up between Labour and Reform. So I think they're going to struggle. They're going to do well up here, I think, but I think it'll be a bit closer than County Durham, and I think Reform may well just have enough to become the largest party. But as you can see, I mean, going off the nowcast alone, at least, it's looking very, very bleak for the Conservative Party up here. Hexham, I suppose, and North Northumberland, they're doing all right in, so maybe their vote will hold up there. But I think they will lose enough to make Reform the largest party. Okay, we're going to move on to Nottinghamshire. Nottinghamshire is going to be another one going to the Reform Party. Yeah, look, very strong county. We've looked at that part of the map. You've seen how blue it is. There's nothing more to be said on it, really. It's been a strong area for them for a little while, and they're just kind of building on those gains at the moment. So I'm saying Nottinghamshire is going to go to Reform, outright majority. Moving down to Oxfordshire, and this is where I'm going to say the Liberal Democrats are going to win this outright. And I think I said this on the last one as well. The electoral calculus poll has them as the largest party, but to be honest, I mean, again, it's now cast, so standard disclaimer, but they just dominate Oxford. They dominated Oxfordshire during the general election, and they haven't really let that slip since. They're miles ahead in all of these constituencies. It's only Oxford East, which is dominated by Labour, where they're not ahead. So the Conservatives got kicked out of there in the general election. I think the Liberal Democrats are going to become the majority leaders on Oxfordshire County Council. To Shropshire, and I think again it's going to be good news for the Liberal Democrats. I'm going to give them from a Conservative majority to a Liberal Democrat largest party. They've just recently, in one of the more recent nowcasts, they've managed to turn South Shropshire from Conservative to Liberal Democrat. So taking another seat off of the Conservatives. They already have North Shropshire as per the last general election, where they're miles ahead there. Shrewsbury there, Labour ahead still, Reform doing quite well there, and indeed in the Wrekin, Reform ahead as well. So Reform are going to pick up some councillors, but I don't think they'll have enough to be the largest party. So we'll go with Liberal Democrat largest party in Shropshire. In Staffordshire, neighbouring Staffordshire, we are going to say that Reform are going to again win that council with a majority, an outright majority, and you can just see, that if we look at it, that picture, you see that purple, which in our video is representing Reform across that Midlands area. You can kind of see it essentially mirrors what the nowcast says in that part of the country. Reform just incredibly strong in this part of the world, in this part of the country, and I think they're going to kind of lock out the Midlands during these elections. As for Staffordshire itself, look, around Stoke-on-Trent Central, they're not actually Stoke-on-Trent Central is not included in Staffordshire County Council's local council authority area, but you can see in that part of the country how well they're doing. 10% ahead there, 12% ahead in Stoke-on-Trent North, part of which is inside the county's authority. 8% ahead in Newcastle-under-Lyme. Staffordshire Moorlands, they're 5% ahead. Burton, they're 7% ahead. Stoke-on-Trent South, 6% ahead. Stone, Great Worley and Penkridge, the Conservatives still doing quite well in, although Reform are catching them up, but they're still 8% ahead there. I think Reform will have enough to win Staffordshire outright. Moving on to Warwickshire. Warwickshire's a tough one to call. As I said, I think this is going to be Reform's sort of dream night, maybe the Conservatives' nightmare night. maybe not quite that bad for the the Conservatives can have a really bad night, but I think it could be worse in theory. But I'm going to say Reform, largest party in Warwickshire. Look, the Conservatives are quite a way ahead in Kenilworth and Southam. Other than that, they're not really in the picture too much. Rugby they are, where it's a three horse race. But yeah, there and Kenilworth is it for the Tories. The Lib Dems very strong in Stratford. Not really in it for the rest of the county, and then as you go up through the north, that's Reform territory now. Nuneaton 10% ahead, North Warwickshire and Bedworth 13% ahead. So look, I think Reform are going to do very well. Not sure they'll have enough because of the strength of Labour and the Tories a bit further south in the county, if they'll have enough to actually get a majority here. So I'm going to go with Reform as the largest party. Which moves on to the last two, and the Conservative Party will be the largest party in Wiltshire. They're going to lose their majority there, I believe. As it goes, it's one of the better counties for them. Look, they're still doing okay in East Wiltshire and in South West Wiltshire, but you can see the Reform Party even there pushing them quite close. But again, the Liberal Democrats strong down here. Melksham and Devizes, Chippenham. I just think the Liberal Democrats are probably going to take councillors off them and deprive them of their majority. But electoral calculus said this would be a Conservative majority, along with Buckinghamshire. So I'm taking a slightly more pessimistic view as far as the Conservatives are concerned. I think that this one will also slip away. And last but not least is Worcestershire. And again, I'm going to say Conservatives' largest party, from a majority in 2021. They're going to lose councillors again. They're going to lose councillors to Reform predominantly, I think. But I wonder if their strength, Conservative strength in the west of the county, may just help them. You know, they're still 6% ahead in West Worcestershire. Droitwich and Evesham, they're still 5% ahead. But, you know, and you can see they're still competitive in Redditch. I mean, the Reform recently overtook them on the Nowcast in Redditch. In Bromsgrove, it's kind of neck and neck between Reform and Conservatives, and in Wyre Forest, Reform eking out a bit of a lead. So Reform are going to take councillors and votes away from the Tories, I think, but I do think the Conservatives probably holding up just enough in Worcestershire to maintain the largest party at least. And so that is our completed map. That's the projection, my projection for the local elections 2025, coming out slightly later than I'd hoped. It's going to be closer to 11 p.m. on the day. I was hoping it was going to be as the polls closed, but alas. And look, this is it. And look, it is a terrible, terrible night for the Conservatives. What did we say at the start of the video? 15 majority councils down to 1. Look, I may be being pessimistic, but again, I may be being optimistic. If it's a really bad night for the Conservatives, they may well lose their majority in Buckinghamshire to be the largest party. If that happens, then I think Lib Dems would definitely win the largest party in Devon. I think they'd probably win the largest party in Cornwall as well. And in that case, it may well be that the Reform Party win Warwickshire. You know, in this nightmare scenario for the Conservative Party, Reform as largest party in West Northamptonshire as well, maybe. Look, that could happen. I don't necessarily think that will happen, but you know, that would be a nightmare scenario for the Conservatives. Look, that's the picture. It would be a terrible result for the Conservative Party. This would be a dream scenario for the Reform Party. I think, if anything, I may have slightly overestimated Reform. A lot of Reform is going to depend on how well they can get their vote out, how well they can motivate their vote to come out and vote for them. If they can't do that, if they can't translate the sort of polling optimism that they've seen again in the last 3 or 4 weeks, then this will all mean nothing. And I suppose more importantly, if they don't produce a good result, very good result from this set of elections, if in 24 hours time we're kind of like, it's a bit of a damp squib as far as Reform are concerned, if they're not able to make too many large inroads, I think that's going to hamper them, because it's going to dent people's belief in their ability to actually win at the ballot box, like I mentioned before. So yeah, this is we'll see how it is. And look, subscribe to the channel, because we'll be covering the results as they come in. We're not going to really know much. Like I say, for probably about 24 hours, just under 24 hours, the evening tomorrow, as the last of the results sort of come in, and we'll see the general picture. I mean, we'll know who's done well and who hasn't by early afternoon tomorrow, I expect. But as for the complete picture, that will come out later in the day, if not even the day after. So look, it would be an awful result for the Conservatives. As I mentioned earlier, by the way, a Nowcast has come out in the time since I last did a video. Didn't get the chance to cover that because I was trying to work this thing out that I told you earlier, which didn't quite work. But you can see that how Reform are just changing the map, how strong they are, particularly along East Anglia, up that eastern coast into Lincolnshire that we mentioned, up through into the Humber region, and then right the way across the East Midlands into Yorkshire, just cutting right through the heart of those former Labour strongholds. South Wales, again, you can see, we saw in the last Nowcast they were doing very well, and they're obviously doing well down there still. And we mentioned, of course, in the southwest, they're just starting to appear down here as well, right at the bottom of the screen. So look, yeah, incredible for Reform. But like I said, they've got to convert this into actual gains at the ballot box, which is what they've got to take the opportunity today. Here's the numbers, so you can see it. This is the latest Nowcast numbers. So as I said, the first time Reform is being projected as the largest party in the House of Commons by the Election Maps Nowcast. I think that's quite a significant moment. Obviously, this is all theoretical, but it is quite a significant moment. Look, Conservatives, from their worst ever defeat last year, almost a year on, and they're going in the wrong direction still. 23 down to less than 100 seats for the Conservatives. That is really quite appalling as far as they're concerned. And of course, the big story: Labour down by over 200 seats just a year into their new government. Look, I've said for a long time, it's very interesting, British politics at the moment, and please do, as I say, subscribe to the channel. We'll follow the results and sort of analyse and have a chat about where it leaves us and how the picture's looking, because this is the first genuine real election that we have to sort of use to test the political weather in the country. Looking at these polls and Nowcast is great, it's fun, but it is all theory. In the end of the day, it's not reality, whereas obviously these local elections are. So that's it. There's the map again. Let me know in the comments how you think it'll all go. If you're up late watching the video, if you're watching it tomorrow on sort of results day, you can have a look at this and see how it's all shaking out in comparison. And of course, I will be doing a video going through the results. So yeah, like I say, please do subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. And I really hope that this one did record my voice.